Welcome back to PETA A1 Restoration Part 3. This video is going to be slightly different in that it's not a video. The sort of stages between stripping the engine down completely and painting it and building it back up and building the trolley, etc. I didn't film those parts for whatever reason. It was just, I was cracking on and didn't think to stop and film everything I did. So fortunately I did take quite a few photographs, so that's what I'm going to do here. It's just going to be a compilation, a slideshow if you like, and I will just talk you through the various stages of what I've done. So the first job, once the engine was completely stripped, was to remove the paint from the actual crankcase, the main part of the engine itself. Initially I think we used paint stripper, that's like the gel type, which you just brush on and leave, and then you can scrape off as the paint bubbles up. You can scrape it off. Obviously in places there it was quite thick, and then next up really is just emery cloth, or I used like an electrical sander to have a go at most of it, get it smooth, clean down the parts. Obviously the gasket faces need to be sort of smooth and clean, and I did those, and then basically just wipe everything over with a cloth dipped in white spirit or similar, really, just to clean all the excess dust and bits and pieces off, so you've got a clean surface on which to paint. Next up really is the red oxide primer, which is just gives that bare metal a base, gives you something to paint onto. Just good practice. I did it with the Lister D type. It's just, protects that bare metal, because quite often at this stage, and I think probably in this case I left the engine for a while, once it had been painted with red oxide primer, just left it, so at least it's not rusting away inside the shed, which it probably would have done as it oxidises. And then the next part is the top coat, which in this instance is a Paragon paint called PETA Brilliant Green. I've used Craftmaster in the past, I think, but Paragon and Craftmaster are both, decent manufacturers of paints for sort of vintage applications, cars, tractors, stationary engines, you name it really. So yeah, one or two, possibly two, I think, coats of the enamel top coat gives you a long lasting finish, and it's quite robust and hard wearing really, which is good. It will protect your engine. Obviously all the ancillary components, bits and pieces, need painting as well. Most notably, I suppose the biggest one of those is the fuel tank, and then obviously in this instance I had a fuel tank with quite a few little dings in it, but if you rub it down sufficiently you can see where all these little sort of imperfections are, and I just marked all those with a pen, and just use normal car body filler to fill those, and then sand it all back so you've got a decent smooth surface. And then, like you say, you can just apply your red oxide primer to that. I think in the interim I did actually clean the tank out as well. I used caustic soda because there was quite a bit of gunge in the tank, and you can actually see there's a picture there of a bucket with, I think that was the first lot that I'd emptied out, so you can see it's sort of black, and it did remove quite a lot of stuff. And I did it again, I did a second treatment to try and clean it up, because it was in quite sort of a bad way. Thankfully there are no holes in the tank, it's quite solid and robust, so that's good. I've got no issues there. But so it was just, I think it had just, because it had fuel left in it for a long time, just left to sit, it had sort of formed a crust and God knows what else in there. So yeah, that has helped no end. So with the main engine components now cleaned and painted, ready for reassembly, it makes perfect sense to build those back up in situ on a trolley, just to sort of aid moving it about, because obviously the more components you add back, it's going to get heavier and heavier, and yeah, is interesting trying to move it around then. So I basically cut a couple of lengths of 4x2, and you can see I've cut some cross pieces as well, which were glued and screwed in place. The trolley frame was then rubbed down, given a coat of stain, and then varnished, and then obviously I needed to fabricate some axles of some degree. I just took some 20mm, it was stainless steel bar. As you can see, I've got some, I don't know, it's 2 or 3 mil plate there, which I've just, roughly welded on. As you can see, I'm not a welder, but I've had a go, and as it stands at the moment, they're still attached. Nothing has fallen apart, so it's doing the job. And those were basically just then drilled through some holes, and they were screwed, attached to the bottom of the frame, and then the actual crankcase itself is just coach bolted through the frame as well, so it's all secure. And then I think these were sort of off the shelf wheels there that I've got sort of built in little roller bearings. They're just tack welded onto the end of the axle, so they just sit there. There are actually a couple of plates that sit just outside the edge of the trolley frame on the axle that are welded, and that just stops the wheels actually pressing up against the trolley and sort of fouling on that. So, and then there's just, as I say, a couple of little tack welds just to stop the wheels coming off the end of the axle as well. But it does the job. It's very simple. It's not so much like a cart like the trolley is for the or what I have for the Lister D type, which has handles and you can lift it up and push it. More of a sort of a barrow type affair. This is just a rough little 4-wheel cart skid thing that I can just move it in and out of the shed as I need to. One of the other repair jobs I had to do was on the flywheel casing, part of the fan casing for the air cooling. Just the top slot there where that attaches to the actual top cowling had rusted through and broken. So as you can see, I've just fashioned a piece of plate and welded that back on, and then a bit of filler at the front there just to tidy that up. But that will reinforce that part, just makes that look a little bit neater. As you can see, the cylinder bore, the valves, etc. The valves have been reground and cleaned, because obviously naturally they always end up with carbon deposits and stuff, and I've cleaned the sort of inlet and exhaust valves there, the inlet and exhaust ports. The bore itself isn't too bad. The external parts there you can see have been painted. I've just used like a silver high temperature exhaust paint on there, but that was just to sort of neaten that up. I had cleaned all that, but yeah, just to sort of make a neat and tidy job. Perhaps not entirely 100% authentic, but that's where we've got to, kind of thing. And then you can now see the piston is back in situ. I've obviously put new, or will put new piston rings on there. The camshaft and crankshaft are back in. It's quite easily to reassemble actually, and obviously the timing marks on these geared wheels, yeah, it makes it very easy to put it all back in the right place. So that's one thing I'm grateful for. And then as you can see, so it's starting to take shape. The fan casing back on again. The cylinder head is on, similarly painted. I painted the cylinder head studs, the bolts, in black. The carburettor, the Zenith carburettor, has had a sort of a strip down and various new parts, new gaskets, etc., and has had a good clean. All the brass parts have been cleaned. That's been refitted, and as you can see, also the exhaust now similarly has a silver paint, high temperature paint to match the rest of it, and that is basically where we've got to now as far as the restoration goes. So thanks for sticking with this one. I know it's been just a few pictures and me waffling on. The next one, part 4, will be back to the video format. I'll try and video as much as I can, make it a little bit more interesting. But yeah, thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.